certainly.
Let's do Audible.
Audible.
We're on YouTube. Okay, cool.
Rock on.
Wait. Okay, cool. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. Tonight, we're going to be continuing our discussion from last week about Satan. I'm, as always, your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist, paranormal investigator, and the Paranormal Encyclopedia. I'm joined by
Brian McKinley, author of cool vampire novels and the godfather of vampire thrillers.
And
I guess you maybe call me like officially now. I'm the second co-host
yes,
or something.
I think you're officially a co-host.
Awesome. Baron Voltage, stage hypnotist, and more or less a screwer of a person's brains.
Yes.
Love messing them up and scrambling them to bits. Yay.
For anybody who's wondering, I mean, we've had Baron on several times now, and Brian and I, and of course Beth discussed it, and we discussed it with Baron, and we've all universally agreed he is too much fun not to include as often as he can come out.
Whenever he's able to be here, he always makes great contributions.
Yep.
I swear I did not trance them into making me a co-host. I swear I did not trance them into making me a co-host.
Sure you didn't.
You don't know
Regardless, he does a good job. He's a worthy addition to the show.
You were about to say adversary.
We kind of have that going too, because we definitely have different friendly disagreements on things, and that's good.
Well, there's still that there's that whole paranormal Justice League idea.
Yeah, she was the one that said that I like have the superhero evil origins or something like that.
You do.
Yeah.
So
it's
okay.
that perfect. You know, they start out as close friends, and then they wind up Magneto and Professor X.
Yes.
You know, kind of.
But folks, before we get into our topic of the evening and more friendly banter, because we're all about the banter, we want to take a moment to recognize one of our sponsors. We'll be recognizing the other one at the end.
Yes.
And remember, tonight's episode is brought to you, among other things, by Audible.
Yes.
Awesome
folks,
place.
If you're not reading, you need to read. Let's be honest, there's no way around that.
No.
And
if you don't have time to read,
if you don't have time
listening.
to read, audiobooks are a wonderful choice.
Yes.
Definitely.
Now, where can you get an audiobook? They can be so expensive. I mean, who the heck has a CD player anymore? Everything's on your phone. Well, Audible is your answer.
Yeah.
It's got tens of thousands of books on every subject you can think of. You know, biographies, lots of fiction, nonfiction, everything you want.
My books are all there.
Yeah, all of Brian's stuff is on there. Dacre Stoker's books are on there.
I mean, there's a considerable amount of educational materials that are available on Audible as well if you're looking to expand your intelligence on anything in particular. Tons of subjects, tons of everything. It's at your fingertips.
You know, there is still, that I'm working through, a massive compendium of vampire short stories.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I mean, that Camilla is in there, Dracula's Guest,
fun
stuff from Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, Clive Barker, like every name in horror that's written a vampire story, it's probably in there somewhere.
They have
I
Varney,
need to
right?
get a copy of that
What?
one.
Do they have Varney yet?
No.
Varney is way too big. That thing would be a 90. You know,
That'd be a whole thing by itself.
I can't talk to
I
them.
went if they have Varney on Audible in general, though.
They
Somebody may have been masochistic enough to try to record that sucker.
I know that.
I mean, that
Pun
thing's
intended.
I mean, that's 1,000 pages long.
I used to have a copy of it.
If they could do War and Peace, they could do Varney.
Yeah. Except Varney's not as good a story.
True.
I'm just checking to see. Nope, it's not on here.
Okay.
That's all right.
It'd be like
somebody
trying to novelize Dark Shadows, the entire series.
So you can buy a complete annotated copy of Varney. I used to have one. It's about like that thick.
What is it called? The Stand?
Stand, yeah.
Just about.
Oh, sheesh.
But at any rate, folks, if you go to audibletrial.com/paranormally, that's audibletrial.com/paranormally, you can sign up and get a free month's membership. With your free membership, you're going to get a free audiobook. Keep in mind, if you quit, if you decide it's not for you, and you quit, that audiobook, you've bought it. So you get to keep it forever. You're not going to have to pay for it. You're not going to lose it. I mean, I first signed up for it like 10 years ago, and I've still got the audiobooks I got.
Same.
Yeah.
Granted, I keep subscribing because it's not. We spend $25 a month. We get 2 books, free audiobooks. We get 2 audiobooks a month instead of 1.
Yeah.
And it's a great service. I work, a lot in my car. I spend hours sitting in a car with nothing to do. Audiobooks
It's great.
save your sanity
Yes.
in that kind of situation.
I think I still have my copy of Foundation.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
On Audible.
Isaac Asimov.
Yep. Can't fault with Asimov. You want to talk about somebody who has a sadistic brain for mathematics?
Solid.
One of my favorite Deal with the Devil stories was actually written by Asimov.
Which one?
I forget the brass box or something like that.
Oh, sounds familiar.
The whole premise is, so this guy cuts a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
And the
you
devil
do.
tells him, okay, so here, we're going to give you all this cool stuff. At the end of 10 years, we're going to give you a test.
Right.
If you pass the test, you'll go to hell, but you'll be one of the major demons. You get power and authority, and, it's not going to be so bad for you.
Sounds
If
like
you
business school.
Fail the test,
Or legal.
Yeah.
you're going to be at the bottom of the pecking order, and everybody's going to shit on you.
That sounds like legal school.
So he's like, okay, let's do this. 10 years, he has 10 years. He's banging supermodels. His company's doing fantastic. He's getting everything he ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
End of 10 years, it's like, okay, so here's the deal. First, I'm contractually obligated to admit to you we didn't actually do anything. All those things would have happened to you anyway.
Okay.
But now that you have all these powers, you're going to hell one way or the other. So, because whether you got anything out of it or not, you still made the deal. Here's the test. We have a brass box. We're putting you in the brass box. There are no doors, there are no exits, there are no windows. You can move in any direction in any of the dimensions. You have 1 hour to get out of the box. Demon leaves. Hour later, he comes back. Guy's gone. Waits a little bit. Guy reappears. It's like, you figured it out. Well, yes, you said I can move in any of the dimensions. Time is a dimension. I just moved back to before you created the box. And then when I realized I could do that, I just moved back further in time and told myself not to make... Everything you told me about how the deal didn't actually benefit me, I talked myself out of the deal.
Nice.
Now that is what you call slick.
Yeah.
That's an actual beating the devil story that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn
So-
him.
Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum.
So speaking of the devil, last week we pretty much left off in ancient times. I
When
would
we
say.
last left the devil.
And the origins in early Judaism, which brings us pretty neatly, I think, up into Christianity.
Yeah, let's start dealing. We talked a little about Christianity for those of you who were here before, but now how does the devil, that the very few references that we get in the Bible, turn into the devil that we all know and love in the Middle Ages?
Isn't it true that he only is mentioned by name in the Bible outside of Revelation once?
Well, that's... Oh, no, it's more than that, but it's not much. He appears in the book of Job.
Okay.
Except he appears as an angel, not a fallen angel. He appears
So it
several
might not
times
be him.
by name in the Gospels as well. Particularly, there's the famous instance with him tempting Jesus.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about in the Old Testament.
Oh, no, Old Testament, outside of Job, I think there's a handful of other references, but it's not common.
That's just it. It's just references, but there's not necessarily a specific. It's him.
Well,
They realized it's like Superman. Jesus is just all this on his own. He needs
he needs Lex
a
Luthor.
foil. He needs somebody to go up against.
Or really Darkseid. Lex Luthor is not quite powerful.
Dark Side is a little more appropriate.
But no, you're right. He doesn't appear often in the Old Testament. I mean, the ones that people most refer to as referring to Satan is a passage in Ezekiel and a passage in Isaiah.
Right.
The one I want to say in Isaiah is the one that actually names him as Lucifer. But the thing about both of those passages is the description is very much what we think of as the devil. I will ascend my throne above the heavens. I will be like the Most High. Basically, he does 5 I will about how great he's going to be, and basically God goes, no, you won't.
So he basically monologues and then sods off.
Yeah.
Like a Bond villain.
Like a Bond,
then what
like
you're
any
running-
sort of great villain.
What you run into, though, is in both verses, it's if you read the context, not just the verse, it's not talking about Satan. It's not, it's talking in one case about the king of Babylon, in the other case, the king of Tyre. Now, the Christian explanation of this, and I tend to ascribe to it, is that, yes, it's addressing this mortal king, but in context, it seems like it's addressing somebody else as well. And Babylon has a bad reputation, especially in the Old Testament.
I know, it was a shaking good place.
And I think it's addressing the power behind the throne, not just the man sitting on the throne.
Little Saruman action.
If you read the verses, they also talk about the person being in the Garden of Eden, having a covering of precious stones. It's like the king. This is written, even taking the Garden of Eden literally. This is much too far after that for the king in question to have been there.
Right.
So it doesn't seem like it's referring to a living person. Maybe it's talking about a spirit being.
Likely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, I mean, as far as like embodiment references are concerned, I'm pretty sure that if you'll go through, I'm going to use the term dogma a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to apologize for that if it's a poor usage. My lexicon, for some reason, has been like
if it's the wrong
lately.
term, I'll correct you.
Thank you.
I'm suspecting it's probably not.
I would hope. The concept of Christian dogma, as far as like embodiments of the Satan, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, you remember, this may have been something that we discussed like maybe off of the show, but you've got Old Scratch himself sitting at the head of the table, and he has all his boys, all hanging out and around.
His consigliaries.
Exactly, his consigliari. Okay, now, who's to say necessarily that those that are actually doing all that crap in that book that has been recounted isn't one of his consigliari doing and name dropping?
I think you've got a legitimate point.
Because let's face it, they like to
and
do
a lot of his consigliaries are confused with him.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other problem. You know, people think, because the Bible calls Beelzebub, for example, the king of demons.
Nope, he's just the lord of the flies.
Well, he is a king of demons. He is one of the kings of the demons. He's not, but he's not, it's not a name for Satan. It's basically Satan's lieutenant. It's the, if Satan's the boss, Beelzebub is the
vice
underboss.
president of marketing.
Yeah.
Well, I was continuing the mob reference and going to go with underboss.
Yeah,
Underboss,
it might be underboss. Yeah.
You know, second in command.
Underboss, the capos, the consigliary.
Yeah.
The vice president.
Yeah, he might be the VP.
Would be another way of putting it, or
vice.
You know, and a lot of the other ones people think of Mephisto, well, Mephisto basically is Mephistopheles.
Mufasa.
Asmodeus.
Say it again.
You know, all the other ones that we could name are usually actually the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And again, it goes to what we said last time. The devil doesn't usually show up personally to deal with stuff.
No. It'd be like, I mean, I hate to use a fairly accurate, accurate metaphor. It'd be like our POTUS actually going out there with rifle in hand along with the Marines.
Yeah.
No. He's going to send Petraeus over there. You do it. I'm busy.
I think that's a good analogy because Satan does occasionally get involved personally.
Yeah.
And George Washington, one president, did actually go out and lead the troops in person once.
That's because he actually did it not that long prior to it.
Yeah.
He got elected.
So I think
George Washington was a pretty special king. I mean, he also voluntarily relinquished power, which is what almost nobody else ever did.
They wanted him to be president for life. He absolutely refused the position.
He said it's a horrible precedent to set.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he was sitting on Nelson and apparently rode into battle. There was like 7 bullet holes in his coat.
Yep.
Not one in him.
Gotta give
the
some respect.
other one I always found interesting, especially just historical precedent, of he originally refused payment for being president.
Yeah.
He was talked into taking the money because, and this is ironic, yes, given where everything went after that, but they didn't want to leave the position as a tradition of being unpaid so that a wealthy man, someone who wasn't as wealthy as George, wouldn't take the position because he couldn't afford it. And sadly, of course, now you have to be rich to successfully run for president.
Yeah.
Although, in fairness, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy, and for all of the other things you can say about him, positive and negative, Donald Trump have by and large not kept their salaries.
No.
Trump and FDR, Trump and Kennedy donated their salaries. FDR strictly used his for basically state function.
Yeah.
Which is something.
It's like that's
it's an aspect to actually look into. I mean,
that's as far as we'll get into politics.
Everybody, and I mean, when it comes to, I guess you could call it a demonic hierarchy, one way or the other. In particular, with the crown holder himself, you know, they're going to take a look and they're going to prioritize and they're probably going to figure out exactly what would be the most impactful.
Hey, Virgo's here. Looking
right.
at the chat.
Yay.
Virgo, hey.
Yeah. Hey, Virgo, thanks for stopping by. Feel free to call in anytime you like.
Exactly.
He was saying that he also appears in the Sovereign Citizen Bible.
Oh,
His name is Virgo Triad. Just ask RV10, April to June.
You know, here's the funny thing. The thing is that I am a Virgo.
Of course you
So,
are.
of course I am.
Yep.
See, personally, I'm a no parking.
Wait, what?
My astrological sign is no parking.
Mine is handicapped.
I must be missing something.
I have no respect for astrology.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I get it.
It's a little hard to believe that
Well,
there's that much that balances on where certain objects.
Here's
were
the thing
in
about
sky.
astrology. Here's the thing about astrology. To
Mm-hmm.
get off topic, one, it has a history of bad predictions.
True.
Nostradamus is extremely overrated.
Careful now. He did predict the death of a king down to a T.
Maybe.
Which one?
Catherine de Medici's ex-husband.
Yeah.
I'd have to look up that one because most of the ones he predicted are wildly off.
A lot of people tend to take a look at him, as like soothsayer due to that.
Well,
because
in
of how
retrospect,
accurate that was.
His Medici, his
have to
prophecy
look
regarding
Medici prophecy
Catherine
was
Medici
downright.
was pretty. He had a couple,
And most
related
of
to
his
it,
other ones were wildly off.
but
Honestly, the thing is that his quatrains were so, I guess you could call it muddled. That
Which is the other thing is a lot of
I guarantee you that half that crap he didn't write, and the other half of it, when he wrote it, he was high on, I guess, the equivalent of Renaissance peyote.
Yeah, almost certainly.
So, come on.
exactly.
But even beyond that, it's like,
Divination in and of itself.
do you realize that the astrological sign you think you are is actually wrong?
Oh, yeah, I know it's off by a bit.
It's off by an entire sign.
Yeah, I'm either a Leo or a Scorpio,
Because here's the thing: one,
I think.
when they decided which sign, the idea was they picked which signs were which month
Right.
by where the sun, which sign the sun rises in. The problem is they chose that 2,500 years ago. The Earth has wobbled on its axis, and now everyone's off by a complete sign. Aside from that, there's a 13th sign to the zodiac.
Is it a very angry or very happy grinning guy with horns?
I'm afraid not. But we are so off topic here.
We are.
No,
Although-
we're talking
so-
about the you want to know what the thing is that was something in particular that has been attributed to him is the introduction of divination and or pagan practices in order to be able to allow for an expulsion of that within Christian lore and Christian dogma, which is related.
Good point. Nice save.
Yep. Baron,
Nice
this is
save.
why we brought Baron in. So I do want to mention one of the very few times of satanic possession is mentioned in the New Testament.
Yeah, what
'Cause
was
it's-
his name?
We mentioned him earlier, off air.
Ugh, Madonna mia. This is why I wasn't made a co-host until today.
So, if you read the Gospels,
Uh-huh.
during the Last Supper,
Judas
Judas
that's right.
Iscariot
You know what?
eats a piece of bread, and as he eats a piece of bread, the devil enters him.
No. Why through the bread? Why couldn't you
Got-
do it through the wine? You know,
Gotta-
like everybody expects it to be. You want to know what? Screw that.
Man's gotta pull
wine
it.
is
You
wine is
gotta-
sanctified. It's the bread that the devil is in.
You gotta watch
It's
out
the
for
Well, it
that.
wasn't in the bread;
Gotta
it was
watch out
after
for
the.
that.
It was basically he
Gotta
chased.
watch out for that bread.
It was bread with the devil chaser.
bread with it. It had a little bit of
It was
mold.
mold on. It's the hops. You want to what? It's the beer. The devil is in the beer.
Clearly,
Had a little bit of mold on the bread.
It's fermented. Fermented bread out of liquid is what? Wait. There is an alcoholic beverage that's fermented bread, is it not?
That's how beer was made in early.
Wait, are we
bread.
getting a call? Yeah, that would be Virgo. In fact, put her through.
Dun, dun,
Virgo,
dun.
are you there?
Yes. Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
welcome to the show.
Hello.
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 How you doing
It's the
tonight?
same girl that you spoke with last week.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hello, Aaron.
Oh, different.
Hello there in Voltage. How art thou?
Fantastic.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we thought you were going to be somebody else.
That might be why. she
No.
couldn't get through.
It's me. But no, I found it very interesting that you were bringing up Christianity. Like, I'm sorry, what main host? What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin. Yes, I know that you're a born-again Christian, and when you were mentioning, like, Christianity and everything, I was like, all right, I need to call because it's, like, all about Christianity.
The second you said Christian dogma, I was like,
Yeah,
okay, let's do the countdown.
I'll be completely honest. I was kind of hoping she'd call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm here in voice, not in person.
It's okay.
That's all right.
In spirit.
In spirit. In holiness.
We've got Virgo's trying to call as well, so...
Oh, wow. We got multiple callers.
So, yeah, it's like, holy cow.
I think that's our first.
But it's like, interesting that he mentions that, like, he's a Virgo. Well, what's interesting enough is that I'm an Aquarius. And there was, like, this little meme on Facebook that I saw that basically Aquarians are seen. And I was like, wait, how the fuck are, like, you don't mind if I swear on air, do you?
Try to avoid it, but...
If we
Okay,
This isn't the
I'll know,
FCC,
but
so
I'm
you're
like,
okay.
how the HE double hockey sticks are Aquarians?
Pretty sure
virtually
hell's
Satan?
okay.
Oh, we can bring Beth in on this. Come on over. Join the circus.
We clearly need to do a whole episode on astrology at some point.
Oh,
yeah.
Astrology, myths, and
And I will even
preconceptions.
concede the one in
Because what's essentially, with the Aquarius is, it's like we're seen as these, these free thinkers. We care more about, how we can, what's the word I'm looking for? How we can, further our minds and, question everything.
Oh, it's
It's
that whole
almost
age of
like,
Aquarius
Aquarians,
thing.
we have our feet on the ground, but it's like we're more connected with, what's out there, what's in the universe, how we can, become one with our inner selves as opposed to caring to earthly values. So when I'm being compared to as Satan, I'm just sort of like, how the hell am I Satan?
Okay, so quick reference to that. Hi, I'm a fellow Aquarius.
Hello, fellow Aquarius. What is your birthday?
January 25th. I am also a year.
January 25th. I am February 6th. So nice to meet you, fellow Aquarius.
Excellent.
This
awesome.
is also our producer, Beth.
Hello, Beth.
Hello. So
I am Erin.
lovely to meet you, as it were.
No! I broke my nose.
Oh,
Are you okay?
I was wondering what that was. I was like, did a bird get loose?
Three out of my phone fell out. Like, what the hell, man?
Well, I will say I loathe to do this because Erin is a great caller. Do want to move things along
Thank
a little
you.
bit because we do actually have somebody else who's trying to call, who wants to call in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, to be fair, most of the other signs are jealous to a degree of just how outside the box we can think and how nothing really affects us as much. And to some, it may seem as if we don't care, but that is not the fact of that. But because of just how callous it can be on occasions,
Of course.
people mistake us for being essentially the evil bastard on
Very
the corner.
cold.
Exactly, and it's through no fault of our own. It's just the fact of the matter that's just how our natures are.
Yes.
Exactly, because Aquarians, in general, can essentially be very social creatures. But it's like if you can't stimulate our minds and actually
shutdown.
hold
It's
a
an
intellectual conversation with us, it's like we just look at you like, why the fuck are you talking to us?
Yeah, that's usually when my brain goes into different
We're
fandoms
also
and whatnot.
wildly off topic. I want to
Yeah.
point out.
We are, yeah. We're
Let's
gonna
go back to the devil.
We will do another episode
back to
about
the devil.
Erin, I do want to thank you for calling in. I think we're going to move to our next caller.
You're welcome.
And then we will
No problem.
we will get back to the devil. So,
Yeah.
Virgo, if you want to call in, feel free.
Yep. The lines are open. We are listening.
I am just so excited that
Live-
we've actually had people
live
competing to be the
beasts.
one calling in
Yeah.
tonight.
Hey,
Wait,
milestone,
wait,
milestone.
Live beasts.
Yes.
Sell your soul online.
Yes. Can I do my Kelsey Grammer?
Sure.
Yep, there it is.
Hello?
Oh.
Are you back?
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, Virgo.
Hello.
Hello, Virgo. I'm listening.
Hello.
How are you tonight?
Hold on. Get the squirt bottle.
Doing good. How are you?
We're good.
Good. We had somebody else call who we thought was you at first.
That's okay. Well, I figured that I would call in and help the other Virgo on there out because you guys seem to just really be picking on him.
Thank you very much.
Pecking on him. Wow.
So I'd always wondered if that was where the name came from. So you are in fact a Virgo?
I am, in fact, a Virgo.
What's yours?
10th of September.
10th?
Yep.
I'm the 11th.
Oh. Spooky.
Yeah.
Oh no, it gets worse.
Okay, we're definitely doing it. Okay, next show we'll do astrology.
There's
I
too much to
capitulate
talk
as much
about.
as I hate it. I capitulate.
See, I can sit with both of your, whether you want to talk astrology or whether you want to talk devil, because we all know
You are the devil.
Virgo Triad is the devil.
At least
The
to some.
sovereign citizen devil.
Yeah, sovereign
It's
citizens
written
are
in the
people.
handbook. It's in stone. Burning bush and all.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they wrote
I
it in
am it.
brimstone.
I have
That's why it
competition.
smells so nice. Of course, Kevin, of course
Yes,
they wrote
you
it in
do.
brimstone. That's why it smells delicious.
Sulfur smells delicious to you.
Yes.
Okay then.
It's sulfur. It's yummy.
Rotten eggs.
It's rotten eggs. It's great.
When it's first burned.
Yes.
There is a
I
subtle
mainly
difference.
just wanted to tell you guys you were doing such a good job, and I wanted to let you know that I was watching.
Thank you.
Awesome sauce.
The view is, of course, appreciated, as is the call.
I wanted to.
All right, well, I'm going to keep on watching and let
Okay.
some other callers get through, and trying to get some more people over to your channel to
Thank you. I
watch
appreciate
you.
it. And folks, if you don't know, Virgo Triad is the phenomenal sovereign citizen, as opposed to
Antichrist of the sovereign
Christ.
citizens.
She has a great channel. I highly recommend checking it out. She was
Mm-hmm.
also on the show a couple weeks back,
Yes.
so you can check her out there.
Lot
She's
of fun there.
great lady. She knows what she's talking about.
That she does.
So,
Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say.
and thank you for
but
calling in. It's appreciated.
You guys are doing a great job, and trying to get some more people to take a look at your channel and
Thank you.
subscribe and learn a little bit more in the paranormal arena also.
Of
And
course.
we'll do
Hopefully,
that.
Kevin, I'll be able to have you on my show next
I was just
week
about
sometime.
to touch on that. Just get in touch with me. I'm super psyched to do it.
All right, dear. Well, you guys have a great evening, okay?
You too.
Indeed.
And God
Bye-bye.
bless. Goodbye.
Oh wow.
All right.
So back to Satan.
When we
Yes.
last left the devil.
Let's talk to the Monsieur Satan.
Especially because I think we're just about ready. I mean, we've gone through the basics and we're kind of hitting into the Middle Ages,
Oui.
which everyone wants to talk
we
about. the
now
devil
have
in the Middle
we
Ages.
now have with us the French taunter.
Yes, c'est French chanteur. On must love this.
Although
Don't do a
bloody hell.
second time.
Dude,
I
have
will
to go
draw
through this.
attention to the phone number just in case anybody else out there wants to call in. Since tonight it's a popular night for phone calls. 609-807-2492. 609-807-2492.
For a hot time.
Super hot tonight.
Oui.
I mean, how hotter do you get than the King of Hell?
Bernie Sanders? No.
Well, definitely. We
Nice.
were
Nice.
watching on College Humor. What does Hillary Clinton keep in her pockets? One of the things is a Bernie Sanders voodoo doll and a lighter, so she can make sure he feels the burn.
That's that. And that's what happens at Burning Man. There it is.
But certainly the idea of the devil as the fallen one becomes popular with the beginning of Christianity. In fairness, it's a little older than that.
Yeah.
I mean, around very much once the Romans defeated the Jews and took over is when the idea started coming in that Satan wasn't just this angel, but he was a fallen angel. And then Christianity just took that ball and ran with it.
And decided to create a whole host of different descriptors and or actions attributed to him in one way, shape, or form or another, all the way up to and including getting rid of all the pagan deities or adopting all of their lovely holidays.
But making a comeback.
Which is complicated. It's not as
We
straightforward
did-
as people think it is.
We did have a
Well, we kinda
topic on
covered it.
that. Yeah, we had a topic on
Okay.
that once.
In fact, this is a good starting point for this aspect of the concept. So when people think of Satan, they think of the Pan figure.
Yep. Or
The goat legs, the cloven hooves, the horns.
Yep.
Or for that matter, there's also Cernunnos, who's a Celtic deity of the forests, who also looks almost exactly the same.
And Krampus.
Check which pantheon you're saying for that.
Last I checked, Cernunnos is Celtic.
Ceranos is Greek.
No, he's definitely not Greek.
Uh-oh. You see, what we have here is when worlds collide.
I mean, I may be wrong about being Celtic, but I know for certain he's not Greek.
It's not Celtic.
He's not Greek. He's definitely not.
Oh, we have our fact checker on that. Survey says
Because the Greek would be Pan, and I don't know the Roman name for Pan, but it's not Cernunnos.
Are you referring to Hearn, who is Celtic?
Hearn is Celtic.
Who is
Who's
the Lord
also-
of who is the Lord of the hunts and
has the
nature?
stag horns, but not the ram's horns.
Depends on which part he's playing because he
Granted.
plays both sides.
All right. Well, let's get back to
Like a
Satan, and
boss.
we'll settle
But-
this later.
The point that I'm trying to bring out
We can
is
post.
Cernunnos, looking him up.
adaptation of image
Yes,
as
he's
well
Celtic.
as
Again, granted, this is according to Wikipedia, which is not the most reliable.
So take it with a grain of salt. In either case,
The conventional name given
Yeah.
in Celtic
Although
studies to
Wikipedia's
depictions
gotten
of the
better.
horned god
yeah, a little bit.
of the Celtic pantheon is Cernunnos, god of fertility, animals, wealth, and the underworld.
Of course, sex is going to be the one thing
Yeah.
that they're going to want to abolish and attribute to the devil.
Now the thing
this is according to the
Here's where
main
th-
region where they essentially used a type of primitive eugenics to make sure all their women were flat-chested, and then got all upset when women who were thicker came around and people started getting attracted to them later.
So the point I want to make is, the idea of
There's a show.
of Satan as being this pan figure does not appear anywhere in the Bible.
Yeah.
Not even alluded to. There's Revelation 12:7-9 does describe him as a dragon and as the serpent of old.
Right.
There are other parts of the Bible that talks about him being that he's like a roaring lion and that he can appear as an angel of light. Nowhere is this pan figure mentioned. If you look at most medieval concepts of what demons and the devils look like, let's see how well you guys know the subject. What are demons are supposed to look like in Celtic mythology? Now you've got me thinking Celts in medieval mythology.
In medieval mythology, they have been described either as figures that are similar to wolves, dogs, or any other known nocturnal animals, up to and
True.
including those with eyes of red.
But there's a single consistent figure that is very popular even today to keep around your house.
The cat. The black cat.
That's a form that demons take, but it's not supposed to be what they really look like. I'll give you a hint. They're popular around churches.
Oh, gargoyles, yeah.
Yes. The point of gargoyles, original point of gargoyles is to drive away evil spirits by looking like more evil spirit. In
So it's a
traditional
sort of a Trojan horse ploy.
in traditional descriptions from the Middle Ages, and for that matter, for the record, in experiences from demonologists, as close as we can determine the true form of a demon is a gargoyle.
Okay.
The pan thing was, as near as I can tell, because I tried to run this down years back, it's something artists made up. It's not something that's ever... I can't find any record of it actually appearing, even in theology, let alone in...
Well, it's just like cherubs.
Well,
Yeah.
there's also the whole
cherubim.
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 Well, actually, as far as that goes,
They
we
don't
could
look
probably
like
get
babies.
that around more, not quite medieval, but closer to the Renaissance, where you
Yes.
see it more often. Simply because that particular figure of the satyr running around is a form of more primal nature, and because of the heavy Christian influence, it was very much a sort of combatant of what was supposed to be the pure and more enlightened form.
You know, I actually do have a very practical reason as to how it's possible that the pan figure was starting to get attributed to the devil.
I'm curious.
I guarantee you this is how it happened, because back in those days, this wouldn't be that unheard of. You have an artist that's commissioned by a very high and mighty figure. It could have been, I don't know, maybe the Pope back then, okay? Early medieval 1400s, okay?
That's where most art came from.
That's where most of that art came from, of that particular nature, okay? Now, this artist for about months and months and months have been doing nothing but painting pan figures and pagan figures for the longest time. And all of a sudden, he realizes the deadline is coming up to hurry up and come up with a devil painting.
So he paints the pan.
He just simply grabs one of his pan paintings and say, "Look, I finished it.
Ta-da!
It's the devil." And oh wait, why is the pan associated? He has horns, right? He's associated with an animal that, like, was biblical at some point. The half of it.
Well, Baphomet doesn't.
Well,
Baphomet was more of a.
We'll get to Baphomet
in a second.
That's a different kettle of fish right there.
Thinking about it, I think there's another explanation.
I'm all ears.
So one of the influences on the idea of the witches' Sabbath, when the witches all got together to meet with Satan,
right,
was the actual real practice, in point of fact, from Rome, of the bacchanals.
Yeah.
Which were huge orgies and drugs, sex, food, and some killing too. If you go by even like the Greek myths,
they would go psychotic and they would go on absolute rampages.
They go on blood, yeah.
So that's why he.
But
no, bad time by everybody.
A bacchanal, or is tied to Bacchus, who is of course in the Greek Dionysus, and satyrs are strongly tied to Dionysus. So it seems like reasonable that when they carried over this idea of the bacchanal and turned it into the witches' Sabbath, well, okay, these satyr figures are still hanging around. Say they must be the devil, or at least demons.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always some sort of like.
And also, they look inhuman, so it's a good way of making them scary to people, because that was one of the points of Satan and the devil, is to scare people straight.
Which is the thing about demons can look like whatever they want.
Yeah.
In fact, all spirits can look like pretty much whatever they want. They're spirits. They don't have a physical body. The one characteristic you see, and you find this in the throughout medieval folklore, and you find it in modern accounts, is when a demon's appearing as an animal or even as a person, there's always something wrong. There's always a flaw, like the red eyes when they appear as wolves. And there's some characteristic about them that sticks out. There's a famous urban legend from the southern United States, of the woman who's dancing, and then they all gasp in horror when they see that the man she's dancing with has hooves.
I guess could have been really
but otherwise
tight
it's
shoes.
An absolutely beautiful looking male. And that there's truth to that. When you see, when I've seen my share of demonic figures that look like animals. There's always something wrong about them. Cats that look like they have horrible cases of mange, but move by like Tigger, basically bouncing instead of, and not bouncing like cats, just going boing 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 without even the legs moving up and down the way an animal's legs are supposed to move. Bats, huge flapping things that appear in your face vaguely in the shape of bats. Not fun when it's late at night and you're trying to drive home.
Oh, yeah, and
but a lot of the ideas of demonic possession become popular in the Middle Ages. I mean, certainly the idea of possession by evil spirits is much older than the Middle Ages.
Yeah, but I think it's just become a lot more prominent, I guess, in a way because of, and this kind of like delves into the whole concept of modern paranormal study, is there's a lot more electrical energy out there for them to feed off of, as well as much emotional energy.
True.
Back then, everybody went to church. And it purged them of any worry or concern over their sins, because they basically purged them.
Yep.
As far as anybody's concerned, I got nothing to worry about. My soul's clean as dandy. Well, where's the nearest bottle of mead? But, these days, we have a lot weighing on us. So, of course, guess what? They're going to hold up a heck of a lot more, and they're going to take hold a hell of a lot easier.
Especially when they make it into an absolute guilt trip about, like, tiny little vices, like masturbation, for one. Or things like that. To the point where it's like, with how over guilt-ridden most teens get when they do feel guilt about something, and they over angst about that. I mean, that's
not to moralize, but ladies and gentlemen, the Bible never condemns masturbation anywhere.
Nope.
The example people use to condemn masturbation is the sin of Alm, and Alm's problem was that he spilled his seed on the ground when he was supposed to be impregnating his dead brother's wife. It wasn't because he masturbated, it's because he refused to obey God's command.
So now we know where the inspiration behind Hamlet came from.
Yeah. See, I think my favorite thing was somebody had a rebuttal for that. Everybody knows Ron White, the comedian.
Yeah.
He's telling a story about when he was growing up with his grandmother, and when he hit teenage years, he's spanking it like you do, and she comes up to him and she goes, "It is better for and she tells him that it's a sin. He's like, well, what am I going to do? I can't go out with any of the girls. So she finally gets fed up and she goes, it is better for your seed to fall into the belly of the whore than for it to drop upon the ground. And he's like, okay, I'm off to go do that. Where's the local? And then she flipped her lid. Because it's like...
Well, that was your advice, Grandma. What am I supposed to do?
Contradictions left and right within the holy word.
A lot of ideas you find here in the Middle Ages with demons are very clearly people making excuses for things.
Of course.
A perfect example of this, of course, is the idea of the incubi and succubi. Because,
the explanation for nocturnal emissions.
Nocturnal emissions. Also, let's face it, it's an excuse
Lustful
for
dreams.
you get caught in an affair. Oh, no, it was an incubus or succubus. Here's the other thing.
It wasn't me.
Well, me.
It was also an explanation for pregnancy out of wedlock. Or, the woman gets knocked up when hubby's away fighting in the Crusades.
Oh, it was an incubus.
And to get it even wackier, there's if you've ever wondered, yes, Catholic priests in the Middle Ages got some really funny ideas about women and men, really.
We were creative.
Because, well, how can...
You're a bunch of twats.
If spirits are purely spirit beings, they don't have a physical body, how can they impregnate women? So there was this idea that, well, incubi and succubi are basically the same thing. If it appears as a woman, it's a succubus. If it appears as a man, it's an incubus. So the succubus form would go have sex with a man.
Right.
And then, still staying physical, would change into a male form and then implant the seed it had taken from that man into a woman. And that's how she would get pregnant.
There you go.
It's like, these are priests that had way too much time on their hands.
They're thinking about this a little too much.
Have you not seen some of the fan fiction on a number of different movie and television show forums? No, they don't have that much time on their hands. There's plenty.
That was fan fiction back in the day.
That was
yes.
Yeah,
the Bible was the only book out there to do fan fiction on. So
well, there's a video.
When you were allowed to do fan fiction on, Let's keep it proper here.
As a religious person, I have to be honest, it's entirely fair, but there's an episode of, I want to say, College Humor about how religious people are the biggest nerds of all.
Duh! Yeah. They know their lore better than anybody. Well, quote unquote, better than anybody.
Religious people actually go to wars over which edition is the right edition.
Yes.
That's true.
Oh my God, it's like 3.5s against 4th heads.
Yep.
So nobody dies for that.
That's
you want to bet?
That's Islam.
Relationships die. Connections die.
That's Islam versus,
well, no, never mind.
No, I'm talking
Islam
about for the
versus
gamer
Christianity.
arena.
Protestants versus Catholics.
Hey, now you're delving into Castagnol's realm. Be careful.
Well, that's what 3.5 versus 3.5.
A lot of the great fiction that gives us the idea, our ideas of, well, a lot of our ideas of demons actually comes from fiction.
Yeah.
In particular, you're dealing with Dante's Inferno.
Of course.
And Milton's Paradise
And
Lost.
Milton's Paradise Lost.
Of course.
Two of our favorites.
Both of which, in reality, in particularly, Milton reflects a lot of theology.
Yes.
Because he's dealing with ideas that you find in the works of Thomas Aquinas and St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm.
St. Thomas Aquinas has a huge amount to do with our view of demons and angels.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Christian philosopher who ripped off of Aristotle's method of
They
explanation.
all ripped off of Aristotle, let's be honest.
No, one of them ripped off
did.
one of them ripped off of Plato. It was literally the same format.
Most of them ripped off of Aristotle. I can believe one of them ripped off Plato.
Right.
But
probably they were similar.
The idea, the idea of organizing, most of our modern idea of hell comes out of pretty much every modern fiction that deals with hell probably comes out of Dante.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly, the idea of the ironic punishment is very much Dante.
Well, I mean, the thing is, he wanted to make sure that
punishment, yeah.
he used the Bible for a lot of his inspiration in regards to symbolism.
Yeah.
He figured that the punishment should always fit the crime, and then figured, okay, this person irked me in this reason, this person irked me for that reason. Oh, that one is so corrupt, I know exactly what to do with him. And then he planted them into the stories, created the entire, I guess you could call it architecture of hell.
Yeah, very much.
It's beautiful. Beautiful work.
And
And poetic.
for that matter, though, there's all sorts of stories from the middle. Dante's is admittedly a work of fiction. There are stories even in the Middle Ages. There's earlier stories like Orpheus and Eurydice, where Orpheus went to the underworld, but that's really not hell. But there are legends from the Middle Ages of various saints that went to hell and came back.
Oh, yes.
And personally, one of my favorites, there's the story of St. Patrick's Purgatory, which is a gateway to hell in Ireland opened by St. Patrick.
Because why not?
Because he wasn't. Well,
The Druid, basically, he was trying to convert the Druids. The Druids are like, okay, this is interesting and all, but prove it.
Yeah, they couldn't get their shaving
Show
together.
us,
So.
show us proof your God is real and we'll convert.
Okay.
He prayed to God. God showed him a sign of a place to go, gave him a staff and a book. He went there. He smote the earth with the staff. He read out of the book, and the gate to hell opened.
So, so you're saying he pulled a Crowley before Crowley existed?
Kind of, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Through the Middle Ages, people would go there. It was a cave in the earth on an island in Ireland. You would go down there. You'd be closed into it for 24 hours. A demon would come to you in the dark, would lead you on this basically guided tour of hell. You would be faced by various temptations, and it was very dangerous, and you could wind up staying forever, of course. But eventually you would come back out, and then you would be let out after 24 hours ended. And people came back with these crazy stories. Interestingly enough, St. Patrick's Purgatory is still a popular pilgrimage site in Ireland.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the first issue of Weird New Jersey, St. Patrick's Purgatory.
Yeah.
Because
Weird
I mean,
Ireland.
that quite literally sounds like a descriptor in the pages of that, as it would have been during St. Pat's time.
Yeah.
I would not doubt it was somewhere in some scripture. It'd be like, Weird Ireland. Ah.
There you go.
Places to check out
See,
while you're in Ireland.
It's a subject to get back to another day, but Patrick was a weird saint.
Patrick was Irish.
Patrick was an ass, and he wasn't Irish.
No, yeah, in fact, he by ancestry he was Roman. By birth he was English.
But then he reached the age of reason and came to Ireland and stayed there.
Well,
Yeah, that's on my
No.
people's accents.
no, he was the child of two Roman prelates in England.
Mm-hmm.
He was kidnapped as a young slave and young boy, and sold into slavery in Ireland. He saw a vision according to him, he saw a vision from God, escaped back to England, and then went back to Ireland to convert the heathens.
Of course, because Ireland is a great place to be.
Yeah.
With all the heathens.
But he turned people into wolves. He caused flowers to eat people.
You know what? This is why you don't drink the beer in Ireland unless you're ready to trip balls.
And the actual reality
That's not what you should be looking out for in Ireland.
is,
And we've
if
done
you-
that one already.
If you look at the actual parish records, he mostly hyped himself up. He was not particularly successful at converting pagans.
He didn't have to be. He made people get eaten by giant flowers or wolves.
Yeah.
The heck?
He's too busy.
They'll turn into wolves.
Yeah.
Basically,
Even
he
better.
created
And
werewolves.
somewhere
Nice.
along the
Yeah.
lines, somewhere along the way, he got this reputation for snakes that had absolutely nothing to do
Okay,
with
so
He was beating the snake.
Joker
no, he wasn't.
to get back
He was a
back
eunuch.
off of Patrick and back a little more on topic. Joker had a good question in chat, which is, so what's limbo / purgatory, and what's the difference? So
good.
limbo is pretty much an abandoned idea in Catholicism these days. Of it's kind of like the waiting room of hell. It's where mostly unbaptized babies go there because they can't go to heaven, but they don't deserve to go to hell because they were babies.
Right.
Nowadays, and theologically, I will theologically say that it is much more correct. Catholics now say babies go to heaven. It doesn't matter if they were baptized. Get your babies baptized, but an unbaptized baby is not going to hell. They're going to heaven. Don't be stupid. Purgatory is heaven's waiting room. People who die with sin because in Catholicism you have to confess your sins and seek absolution. Well, if you die without having confessed all your sins, but you're still a believing Christian, a Catholic who's going to heaven, you have to work off the price of your sins. So you're sent to purgatory where you're purged of them. You're literally burned away. The sins are burned away.
No, you want to. I mean, there could be a modern equivalent.
Yeah.
Like if I can even think or posit, possibly.
Well, yes, please.
Okay. Yes. Purgatory, the DMV.
No, that's hell.
No.
No. That's purgatory. However, the stereotype has disappeared, at least for within New Jersey, because the DMV is actually efficient for once.
Yes.
It's gotten better.
It's gotten way better.
A lot better.
I will say on that note, dang it, I
We should probably get close.
was in
'cause
limbo.
we
Yeah,
have-
we need to close up.
Speaking of
shortly.
angels, we have Age Out Angels coming on
up
next.
soon. Well, we have still not really, because we haven't even gotten into the devil in modern times.
Oh, I so want to do that.
So next week shall we do the devil today in the modern world?
Devil Part 3.
I will be dressed as me. I guarantee next week.
Fantastic. So guys,
Almost.
Almost.
ladies and gentlemen of the audience, do remember to tune in next week. I don't have an absolute confirmation on it yet, so keep an eye on the Facebook page. But next Wednesday night, probably around midnight Eastern time, hopefully will be finally the first episode of Lupus and I reviewing stuff, and should be trying to get on Virgo's channel next week as well. It all depends on respective availabilities of folks.
Awesome sauce. Do we have like another sponsor?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
So we want to wrap up by talking about our other wonderful sponsor, which is NordVPN.
Very awesome.
You know, reality check, folks. The internet is a dangerous place.
Very.
Internet security is an increasingly big issue. I was just watching a video before I came in about passwords and how underprotected our passwords tend to be and things of that nature. You know, you're using your credit cards to buy stuff on the internet, and security is a huge issue. A virtual private network, which is what VPN stands for, is a really good way to go. Basically, it adds another layer of, you have the normal security you have going to your own internet service provider. Well, now, once you're on your service provider, you're going to a private network. And then from there, you're going to the internet, which adds double layers of encryption. The encryption is military grade, folks. So it's as good as you're going to get.
And coming from the military, believe me, I know what military grade looks like. These guys actually know what they're doing.
It's a really good service. It's a little on the pricey side. I think it's around $60 for 2 years, which is not terrible. They're cheaper.
Actually, sounds pretty damn good.
It's on the pricey side compared to other virtual private networks. But what makes Nord particularly awesome is it's set up in Panama, which means they're not subject to U.S. law or U.S. extradition. And on top of that, where other virtual private networks save data for about a month, which can hypothetically be subpoenaed by the government, Nord keeps deleting it. So your information is not found. If you're concerned, and frankly we all should be, about how Homeland Security and the NSA are watching everything we do these days, NordVPN protects you from that. If you happen to be listening internationally, if you're living in a country like China that censors what you can and cannot see, NordVPN lets you get around that. For that matter, you know, if you're living in the United States and you're curious what the internet looks like if you're surfing from England or Canada, you can choose to connect to a VPN in another country.
Yeah.
So, you know, the stuff that Netflix doesn't always let you see the same things in the U.S. that you could see in another country.
Wait,
and
does that mean I can get Vicar of Dibley back?
There you go.
And where most VPNs are blocked by Netflix, as I understand it at the moment, Nord is not. I may be wrong, and even if I'm not, that may change. But it's great. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee if you try and you decide it's not for you. You can go to the link that'll be in the description, and it'll be in the pinned comment, and it'll help out the show. Please keep in mind as well, we've still got a week to go on our Kickstarter. We could use your support there. If you, we could also use your support on the Patreon.
Yes.
Links will all be in the description. That's going to do it for tonight. Please remember to tune in here for the next show, which is Age Out Angels. It's a great show. But that's going to do it for us. We're going to go have ourselves some dinner, I think.
Yes.
So this is Kevin Mears
Brian McKinley.
Aaron Voltage.
And Beth.
saying good night. God bless.
Live long and prosper.
Au revoir.
Nanu.
And avoid lightning rods.
At all costs.
Yeah,
Good
they
show.
got the, page